keeping it going with the 37th season in 2013, and that was Juden Sentai Kyoryuger. No one does that for the roll call. It's just something that someone does when they say their catchphrase. The catchphrase is, oh my. It's actually a number of Super Sentai members in different teams that have catchphrases. Not all of them, but there's some that pop out every now and then. Like Akashi from Bokenger is attack. And actually Torin from Kyoryuger also does the snap. But I already did it for Bokenger, so that's why I didn't do it. So, Kyoryuger, another dinosaur theme. Like, before I even started watching Super Sentai, I think it definitely popped into my feed at some point because the appearance of 3 dinosaur Super Sentai teams having a crossover was gaining a lot of traction, views, and popularity. So I kind of saw it and I'm like, oh, that's really cool. So I'm excited to watch it when I get a chance. It wasn't just dinosaurs, but they also mixed in a little bit of the collectibles, and this is where I really started to notice the sort of collectibles type power like really growing, because they have the batteries that load into their Gaburi revolvers, and they use it to morph, they use it to summon their swords or to summon their mechs, and they also have ones that activate different powers, like blowing up like a balloon, or shrinking to like really flat. They have one that farts. Pretty sure they at least have one that breathes fire. They have one that summons a motorcycle. Things like that. It's that extra purpose that, for me, determines it as a collectible rather than just morphing. Because that was kind of the case for Go-Onger, to an extent, Go-Kaiger, and Shinkagers was only to power up their weapons. They didn't even use it to morph. But then, Goseiger kind of had something similar going, but with Kyoryuger they really expanded upon it more. And again, I'm pretty sure it's something that they derived from Kamen Rider. So just getting into the things that I liked and some of the things that threw me off. I really like the sound design, because the sound, the music, and especially that announcer, who is an actual character in the series, where he introduces the episode and he ends the scene and he's part of the intro theme. But then it's also whenever they load their batteries into the revolver, then you hear the announcer, and they actually find a way to incorporate him as a character, because his character is the one who designed and manufactured all of their gear and weapons. So he decided to put his voice into it, and it's really fun how they incorporated it. He's really good at it. It's probably like my favorite announcers, because it's so distinct, and because of how bombastic and eccentric it is, it really matches the tone of the season and his character. And apparently he voiced a character in Yu Yu Hakusho, which I did watch, but I watched the dub version. So I went back and found a few clips in Japanese, and it's like, oh, that's him. It wasn't quite to the level that he did for Kyoryuger, but the raspiness in his voice, it was definitely him. But man, that must straighten his voice. The music is great, especially because the part of the theming of the season relates to the melody of the earth, and and music kind of plays a big part of it. And mixing that with dancing, because I think they incorporate a little bit of like Brazilian culture in it. Like the name of the theme is Vamala Kyoryuger, and Vamala is something in Brazil, and looking here it says that it means let's go in Portuguese, which is a common language in Brazil. And they make all the references. Anytime the Rangers had to morph, they had to do a dance, and when they do the little dance as they morph, it's paired with music. But then Red has an additional power up. He also has to do an additional dance, but you kind of see a little bit of capoeira in it. I think I pronounced that okay. Capoeira, which is a Brazilian martial art designed or disguised as a dance. They reference it as like carnival mode, which carnival is a really big celebration out in Brazil, and the music also incorporates a lot of like rhythmic beats that you would often hear in like carnival and samba dance and stuff like that. So that's kind of how they incorporated a lot of Brazilian, a number of kind of Brazilian cultural elements into the season, although it may not match it aesthetically, especially because they're doing it with dinosaurs and batteries. They managed to incorporate it into the music, and it worked out really well in that regard. It might not be quite at the same level as when they do something Japanese, where they incorporate it with all the design, all the music, and all the words, and even the maybe even like the storyline. But what they managed to do by incorporating it with the music and the movements was really well done, and I would say like pretty well polished, and it was fun to watch. With that being said, they also have a fun dance at the end. You can't have something that incorporates such a culture and such music without having a dance. So they have a fun dance at the end. I like how, much like Deca Ranger, it has 10 Rangers. And the thing about this one is they're a little bit more involved, because like 2 of the Rangers that were in Deca Ranger, one of them only showed up for the movie, and then one of them only showed up for one episode, and one of them only morphed like once or twice, but she was a regular character in the series. But with this one, I felt like they were more sprinkled throughout, and it was fun seeing them, kind of like the Masters in Deca Ranger. Like they were a little bit more present, maybe not as much as the Masters, but compared to the previous Rangers in Deca Ranger, they were more present throughout the series. And the action and music sequences in this were great. Like some of them were like a music video, or even like something like Girl in Lagan or Kill la Kill, where they get the music going and the action, the big battles happening, and it's just one big long sequence. And especially towards the end game finale arc, when coincidentally this is actually 20 years after Die Ranger did their suitless roll call, and then they kind of do it a little bit different, where classic end story where everybody's trying to make it to the boss's base, or the last boss's base, but then someone has to stay behind so that they can fight off forces, so that the rest of their group can go. So then each character did theirs by themselves, or well, one of them. There were actually 2 of them who did theirs together, and the way they did it looked like a comic book, and it was really fun, and especially the music that they played was great. Like I tried to find some of the music to listen to, like when I'm working out or I need to hype myself up. It's in that playlist. I really liked Candelia, Lakito, and Aigaron, who are actually on the villain side, and they were actually kind of the comic relief. Like this season's villains had a good mix of you know, lighthearted and like serious, like evil, like scary. And like the three that I mentioned are actually kind of the more comedic, like the comic relief. You know, they actually kind of end up sort of switching sides at the end. While I'm talking about villains, I thought the premise of the villains was pretty interesting because so they were sent like from afar, like a different galaxy or whatever, and you know, they were meant to take over different planets, and then you know, they had trouble conquering Earth because, you know, spoiler alert, Torin, who is one of the Kyoryu Silver and also the mentor to the Kyoryugers, he's brothers with like the big boss, or he's brothers with one of the villain generals, and when he went to Earth, he didn't want to take it over. He thought it was beautiful, and that's why he befriended dinosaurs, and that's why their powers are derived from dinosaurs. But then something interesting is the way that the villains are supposed to gather energy for like the main villain that they're all trying to serve, Deboth, translation might be off. They're supposed to gather the emotions of humans. And it's like Candelia is supposed to gather happiness. Bakiro is like supposed to gather joy. Aigon is supposed to gather sadness, and they have two other ones that are one's supposed to gather anger, and one's supposed to gather like resentment. So it was kind of interesting how they turned emotions into actual energies, and I'm gonna get into it at some point, but something about it was Japanese. And again, I hope to eventually expand upon this later. And I just have to say, Aigaron kind of has a rivalry with Kyoryu Black, and when that, you know, when their showdown happens, or it doesn't, it's pretty good. And again, the music for it was great. I mean, other than that, like, season was pretty solid. It was a fun blast to watch from beginning to end, and you know, it kind of reminds me of some of the animes I really enjoy, like Gurren Lagann and Kill la Kill, mostly again because you know they have good action sequences paired to some kick-ass music, and it's just fun to watch. And I think I really like the chemistry between all the characters. So I guess just into the things that, you know, kind of threw me off. Something that I've noticed, if there's any sort of dinosaur or dinosaur theme, someone's gonna die. And this one kind of has a loophole, and like kind of my justification is a bit of a roundabout way of approaching it, but you know, technically someone did die. And you know, just as a reminder, in Zyuranger, Dragon Ranger Burai died. In Time Ranger, Naoto, who had a dinosaur-like mech, died. Mikoto Nakadai in Outranger, a dinosaur-themed Super Sentai, died. So the roundabout way they kind of go about it in Kyoryuger is Torin. Someone technically kills Torin, who is Kyoryu Silver, and you know, the Kyoryuger's mentor. And the thing about Kyoryu Cyan and Kyoryu Grey is that they're technically spirit rangers, because they are rangers because you know, Torin recruited them like hundreds, thousands of years before the current team. So you know, they never actually died. But as part of the endgame arc, they had to go to hell in order to, like, finish off the main villain, or provide the means to finish off the main villain. So part of the plan was to kill Torian, and then the two Spirit Rangers will join him in hell and fight their way through hell and through past monsters to provide the means to finish off and destroy the main villain. So that's kind of the roundabout approach to how someone had to die in Kyoryuger, and someone has to always die in any kind of dinosaur themed Super Sentai. And spoiler alert, that will again prove true in Ryusoulger. So something that was interesting as I started to find out about it was there are a number of previous Super Sentai actors and actresses that make appearances in this. I don't know if they chose them specifically, or if they were open to a project or what, but there were like quite a handful that made an appearance. Tessai, who plays Kyoryuger, is the same actor who portrayed Boken Silver, and again, hair is enough to make me like not recognize them, because in Bokenger he had long, like light brown and almost blonde hair, and this one he was either bald or had short black hair. Yuko, who plays Choru Blue, Nobuhara's sister, and the second Kyoryu Cyan, was Deka Yellow, and they actually allude to her role as Deka Yellow because when she's being attacked by, and this is before she got her Kyoryuger powers, like, so she's being attacked and by the goons, and then for some reason she has like crazy strength like her brother, so like she's waving things around and like she like palm fists, and she's like, oh, what an emergency, and emergency is the line they use when they morph, and then with her hand out, it kind of resembles the silhouette when they deploy their SP license, and then you actually hear the auditory cue of the sirens that they used in Deka Ranger. For some reason, she's the only one who got that Easter egg. Like, I don't know why they didn't do it for Tessai, who plays Boken Silver. So Ian, Kyoryu Black, has a late friend and colleague who makes an appearance as a flashback. So this character only has like one scene that's used over and over again, and the actor who portrays him is the actor who played Gunpei from Go-Onger, who is Go-On Black. And something that was interesting was, even on my first watch through of this season, something felt interesting about a character or two, and the characters I'm referring to are Kyoryu Green, or Soji's parents. And then for some reason it was just like, I don't know, there's just like a weird presence, or like an interesting emphasis. Maybe they fit in an Easter egg related that I don't know about, but it turns out the actor and actress who portrayed Soji's parents were both from Dynaman, Dyna Black and Dyna Pink, and I believe they also had other roles in Super Sentai, but they were both in Dynaman. Yeah, and that's just the ones that I caught. I'm sure there are more that I didn't even notice, and and that's not even including like anyone who just does voice work, because the actor who voices the Knight of Resentment, who is like one of the generals in the villain group, he's actually voiced by the same actor who portrayed Mega Blue from Mega Ranger, and technically Shinken Red in Shinkenger, and also technically one of Shurikenger's human forms from Hurricaneger. And I think one of the monsters of the week is voiced by the same voice actor who voices Doggy Kruger, and I don't know why I'm getting lost into that, but sometimes I just fall into a hole and I just like keep reading about it, and it's like always interesting to me, and then it's a bit of a blessing and a curse. They even had some Sentai actors make an appearance as posters, kind of like Stan Lee in the Marvel Netflix series, because there was an episode where Candelia's human form was based off of an idol, and then they're saying, and she's in an office trying to audition, but they did not hear her because she already looks like an idol that they already have, and they kind of flash on the posters of other idols that they have managed, and they actually show posters of Nanami from Hurricane Blue, and I don't think she was into her idol career yet at the time. They do show Yoko from Go Buster, who I said would, the actress would go on to, the actress who played Yoko would go on to be in an idol group, but then in Go Busters, she actually had an episode where she looked very similar to a Chinese idol, and then and so I think they were showing that character's poster, but I just thought it was funny, like, man, they're really, like, I don't know, tightening the universe or something. I don't know, it was fun. It was a nice touch. So lastly, the thing that really threw me off, and I'm sure is what is kind of like saddens fans the most, is they totally could have done more with Kyoryuger, who only makes one appearance, and that was actually in the movie. Although that character does come back for an episode later in the season, the appearance as a evil Kyoryuger is not present. But man, it was such a cool design, and they totally could have done more with it, but maybe due to budget and time constraints, they just couldn't, or maybe they couldn't think of a more interesting way to do it. Oh, they totally could have found an interesting way to do it. I trust in them, I believe in them, so it's probably just like a budget and time constraint that they couldn't find a way to reincorporate that character, because towards the end they do manage to reincorporate its mech. I mean, even Power Rangers managed to do something with it more. I mean, so to be fair, in Power Rangers they never actually used the Kyoryuger footage, but in the comics, the character who is implied to inherit it in Power Rangers Super Dino Charge does make an appearance in the comics and does don the suit and is known as the Talon Ranger. Damn, that was dirty. But yeah, they totally could have done more. Speaking of more, like, I guess while I kind of brought up the topic of Power Rangers, something about this season, I kind of started to get an idea of, actually, I know the reason why. So when I first watched this in October of 2018, before watching it again in December of 2019, I watched Power Rangers Dino Charge and Super Dino Charge on Netflix. So I had a little bit of a closer comparison between Power Rangers and Super Sentai, because every time I had been comparing it before was such a big gap, like from like the first, like, most of the seasons I never really watched again until, like, the first time I watched it was also like the last time I watched it, and maybe like I go back to watch an episode or two or like a couple clips. So, being able to watch Power Rangers Super Dino Charge on Netflix, and being able to watch the Super Sentai Kyoryuger so like relatively close together, I start to learn a little bit of how Power Rangers really tries to put on their own style. And I mean, some things were obvious, like whether it's censorship or like the battleizers, which I was actually pretty surprised to find out the battleizer or the special mode they have in Super Sentai was also shared with Power Rangers Dino Charge. But like the things I really started to pick up on was how they tend to format their settings, like, or for instance, they always have like a mentor, and then just the way that they format the villains is just so different. And especially because they didn't really do the collecting bad people's emotions kind of a deal that that I tend to see in Japanese anime, Japanese video games, Japanese Super Sentai. So that's kind of what I meant by something about it just felt Japanese, and how they adapted it more for Western audiences. It was just something interesting that I kind of started to notice. And interestingly enough, they actually have a really short miniseries of a Korean adaptation of Kyoryuger, and it's not just dubbed over. It's like they have Korean actors and actresses. I think they repainted some of the suits, like they have like additional designs or like stripes, and they even like redid some of the mechs, and they have additional design features. I think they're on like 12 episodes and like 12 minutes each, but I'm actually pretty interested in watching it at some point. So be on the lookout for that. So I guess just on to my favorite episode. That was Brave 39, Full Array, the 10 Great Kyoryu Powers. This was just a fun episode, but I should note that this episode actually relates to the movie, and I haven't seen the movie yet. And two characters from the movie make an appearance in this episode, and from what I kind of picked up on, it kind of picks up where the movie left off. Well, it was presumed that the villain from the movie was destroyed, but then kind of makes a comeback, and then the second character, who is the Kyoryuger's ally, is somehow involved. But anyway, it was just fun because maybe because it gave something for me to look forward to. Like even though this was my second time watching it, it gave me something to look forward to because I didn't watch the movie yet. Because compared to the ones that I had seen a second time, so Gokaiger, the summer movie, not the crossover movie, as far as I know, didn't really play any kind of role in the season. Go Buster kind of does, but really only shows up for the last few moments in one of the episodes towards the end for a last minute clutch save. And with Ninja, I don't think the movie is related to it at all. And then with Kyoryuger, this was a whole episode devoted to it. Even though this is my second time watching it, it still gave me something to look forward to, even after I finished the season, to kind of fill in that small gap. Apparently that movie also dives a little bit deeper into the meaning and the core of the Ranger's powers, because again, the theme of Kyoryuger is related to the Earth's melody, and also the song that the the second character who makes an appearance from the movie into this episode, or Miko. The song she sings is really nice. It's really cool, and again, it's one of those action sequences. They pair it to some kick-ass music that's just a blast to watch. Oh, and then lastly, this is episode 39 out of about 50. This is the first time that the Kyoryugers finally do a full 10 Ranger roll call. So that was fun to watch too. Yeah, the season was just a blast to watch, and looking forward to watching all the different movies, the crossover special especially, and even the Korean version. So it was a blast, and reminds me of a lot of my favorite animes. Like, I bring it up a lot, like Gurren Lagann and Kill la Kill. I bring them up for a reason. And again, just going back to the music, that music is, I use that music to like hype me up. So that's some good music. I'm a sucker for a good kick-ass music and a awesome action sequence. I need to make some of my own action sequences with that music because it's good.